Hi guys, happy Friday, July 10th. Um, I have been remiss at doing data for you guys. As many of you know, uh, I moved across the country 3 months ago. I am now in Rochester, New York, but I am still actually working in Central Oregon. For many people, they ask me, so how does that work? It really depends on what you need. Just to tell you a couple of the situations I have going right now, I had a client that I had been nurturing through the last 5 or so years dealing with some legal stuff on their property. They were finally ready to transact, and when we were communicating about what their service they wanted was, they wanted an A to Z broker. They wanted someone who could actually come in on the ground, give suggestions for home care, and then step them slowly through the entire listing project. So I partnered with someone for that, basically referred her off to them. I do make money on referrals, guys. I can refer people across the country. So I use my network and knowledge of real estate to vet brokers, to personality match people, and to get the best person in to help that person. So that listing has been referred off. I will make a fee for that, and they will be taken care of appropriately. I'm still in the background checking in, making sure everybody's happy. So I want to make sure I'm doing my job with my referral background checks. But that's that transaction. I have another transaction where this person is a buyer. We know each other very well. They really wanted to work with me for their paperwork because they really value my communication style. So for their transaction, I partnered with a broker who is basically a door opener. They are getting paid to show the houses because it's a buyer. They did a handful of showings. And then they were there for the inspection. And when they close towards the ends of the month, they will be the one who hands over the key, does the final walkthrough, that sort of thing. That's the part I hate, that I don't get to be there to see this house just as you guys are moving into them. But I've been doing everything else. I wrote the contract. I have been negotiating. I have been here for them in every step of the way. So I can do every part of and every type of a partnership in between there. So please, for your loved one, your family, your friends, your referrals, and yourselves, if you are looking to transact, have worked with me in the past, and really want to work with me, let me know. I am still here. I am still licensed in Central Oregon. I am still a member of the real estate association there. So I am still here as a resource for you. So Reventure app, this is one of our data portals. Let's run through some median home prices. Where are prices at right now? So I'm just going to run through Central Oregon real quick. Pop up. Up in Madras, we are at 376. Culver at just about 420. Between Culver and Redmond, that's a pretty broad spectrum of farmland. We are at 584 in Redmond in the city. We're at 516. Pop over to Sisters. We are at 791 in Sisters. 97703, so north of town, rural large properties, and then the west side, the more resort side of town, we are at 1,021,000. Heading over here to 97701, east side of town, we are at 613. 97702, my old neighborhood, is 687,000. Sun River and south of Sun River, so that's south side of Bend. Those are larger, little kind of rural properties. We're at 740. And then headed down to Lapine, we are at 410,000. So prices in Central Oregon have been coming down a little bit. Their buyers are really conservative right now. They're really more than willing to sit on the sidelines and watch the markets until someone lists a house at the right price in the right place in the right condition for them. Honing in on the right price right now is your most important thing if time on market is valuable. Say you're trying to get your house sold so that your kids can start a new school district this coming fall. You just don't want to be paying your mortgage for the next few months. That was my case when I sold my house. I listed my house at a price that I knew would, in theory, make it sell fairly quickly. I was not in a position where it was, we'll see what happens. We were very, very confident that it would sell quickly. I may have left $5,000 on the table, but getting it sold before I was paying 2 or 3 more months of mortgage also saved me more than $5,000. So there's a trade-off to be had there. You can see here that this is the home value, and this is, I just picked my old neighborhood, 97702. Home value is sold homes. So in this portal, a home value is not your pending, this is your sold homes. A buyer and a seller have come together and agreed that this is a reasonable price for the home for both parties. 7 out of 10 situations, a lender has also gotten involved, done an appraisal, and said, yep, that seems like a reasonable price for that home. As a real estate broker, I have zero control over what your home sells for. All I can control is advising you based on data and then doing my best to put the best face forward, the best foot forward of your house if we're getting ready to list it, negotiating the best price for you if we're on the buyer's side. So in 97702, we've got what is this, 687 is our current home value, and that is down a little bit over the last couple of years. Right here, 2003, that was our biggest dip recently, and that was driven by that very quick escalation of interest rates from hovering around 3% up to almost 8% in the course of 6 months. That just took all of the wind out of the sails of the real estate market. Prior to that, obviously very significant increase during COVID times, but you had that very traditional incremental increase over time. I'm sure you guys all see this. The expectation is that over the next year or so, prices will go down in this market, right around 5%. This is pretty universal in Central Oregon. The expectation is for prices to continue to soften, all things remaining equal. It's very hard to forecast what interest rates are going to do. We have a new Fed chairperson, with Jerome Powell. We knew that he was looking towards the end goal. He was one of the architects of attempting a soft landing for Joe Biden after COVID. And no matter how you actually think those things worked, he was always kind of looking to the end game. What if I change interest rates now? How is that going to impact us 6 months, a year from now? In the notes from the Fed chair meeting, one of the reports I saw talked about how the current new chair has said that he does not intend to use a lot of projective analytics in his interest rate choices. He will be looking at the current data. So today's inflation, today's employment, today's consumer price index, and all of those reports, and make choices based on that. He's not trying to control the longevity of the market. It's hard to know how that's going to look 6 months from now. So there is every chance we might see a reduction in interest rates. Looking from a helicopter view at the economy right now, if that does happen and you are looking to buy a house, have all your documents pulled together ahead of time, be ready to jump in ASAP. And I say that because I do not foresee, if he's only looking at micro reports, those micro reports remaining consistent in a way that he would keep those rates down for very long, just from what I'm understanding from people who are more knowledgeable than me on the economy. So definitely be ready to move forward. No real expectation of interest rates coming down. So we kind of hold in that little bit stagnant place because of that. So, we had prices exponentially come down in 2023 because of those interest rates, and then they did rebound a bit because people were like, okay, this is our new reality. I still have to make a life choice. Things happening in people's lives were forcing transactions. But now we're seeing this, not a huge amount, but a little bit of cooling in the market. Prices are coming down a bit. One of the driving issues with that is we have significantly more for sale inventory versus buyers in the market. So back here, prior to COVID, when I was mostly working with buyers, it really felt like there was a very equitable number of buyers and sellers. Prices were moving up because buyers were willing to compete if need be. But for the most part, most buyers were saying, nope, this is a reasonable price. We will write an offer at full price. We weren't writing a lot of lowball offers. If a house was on market and priced well, very often it was going pending within a week or two. And then COVID happened, which was an anomaly. But since then, since 2024, I kind of figure COVID ended here because that's where interest rates went wonky. We have seen this steady increase in inventory. This is caused by life happening. We have people stepping into larger families, out of families, like jobs changed, all of those sorts of things. There have been a lot of people holding onto their inventory, holding onto their house because they say, I have a 2.8% interest rate. I will die in this house now. But then things happen and life changes, and you have the opportunity to move to Rochester, New York. So you do that. That's what we're finding now. We're getting far enough away from those really low rates, which remember ended at the beginning of 2023, that enough people are willing to make those changes. There's also enough people out there who made life changes in the last couple of years and are having to make changes again, so they are selling. That is actually the situation for this seller in a contract I'm on right now. Things changed. They got a really great opportunity for their work, and even though they just bought their house 2 years ago, they are selling now. So with that increased inventory and lower buyers in the market, that does give, although we are still considered technically a seller's market in Central Oregon, it does give a little bit more power to buyers if they do find that house that they really like, if it's not listed reasonably. There is a lot of aspirational pricing for sellers. So what I mean by that is I really would like to get 850,000, even though my broker has told me 790 is the more appropriate price. But there are also a lot of people doing what I did and pricing aggressively to get it pending quickly. So you really need to lean into your broker and their knowledge of the market and the comps to make sure that if you really like this house and it is motivated pricing, don't dink around. Write that after, get it in, because I will tell you it will go pending quickly. But if that house seems a little overpriced, yeah, see if you can get it for less. Really lean into those comps. The contract that I have a buyer in right now, that house was listed for 4 days when we went pending on it, and they had over 30 showings, according to the other side. My contract that I am on the listing side on right now, we were on market for 18 days before we went pending. So we're not sitting on market excessively long, especially considering the market going days on market right now. So let's pop that up real quick. No, that's not the place to see it best. Let's come back to this map. All right, so days on market up in Madras, we're in the 60s, 70, Redmond 65. I mean, we're pretty consistently at a 2-month timeline for days on market. So that's when, at 2 months, if you're on market still after a month, having the conversation about pricing is really important. Potentially, and it depends on your motivation. If you're in the position where you're fine to sit on your house, that's great. But if you're like me and paying that mortgage every month while it sits empty on market is impactful to the overall budget, it might be worth doing a price reduction. For me, I probably left 5, maybe 10K on the table on the house that I sold, but also I didn't have to keep paying mortgage waiting for the right person to come along. So in the end, for me, it's a win. I think that's about it. Let's see, home sales. How many sales happened last month? So we've got 57 in 01, 88 in 02. I was one of those. 57. So you can see there is activity. Oh, wait, Culver, 3. 19 in Madras. 5 in that in-between world. 19 in Sisters. 57 and 03. So we definitely have more activity in Bend proper right now than we do in some of the surrounding areas. And part of that simply is the difference in economic situations in town versus outside of town. That really does change things. So I'm going to not try to make this half-an-hour video because you guys know how much I love to dive into these details. If you have questions, if you want to see any of the rest of this information, let me know. Let me know what you would love to look at. And I'm going to do this real quick because I have so many of you who actually have curiosity about the difference between where I was and where I am. So let's go back, move my little face. Popular data, home value. Here's your prices where I am now. This is my zip code, 210. This includes my neighborhood, which is over here, but also one of my favorite neighborhoods in Rochester, which is North Winton and that Boylton neighborhood. They're beautiful. As you get down here, obviously your price points get higher. You're getting more rural out here. I like a lot of the Browncroft area as well. I love 19th Ward. It's surprising that they're not getting more strength in their pricing. I really think that that's corporate driven because that is exactly, this is the university right down here. So the University of Rochester does invest quite a bit in this market. So yeah, this is the difference. You know, people, I have these conversations quite a bit with people about pricing, and when you get to a market where your home value is at 210, that changes the data points for everything that come after that. So anyways, I just figured I'd pop that up as well because I've been getting questions about this. I am getting licensed in New York. I am in the process of taking my classes. I had to start all over again when I moved here. I am doing bookkeeping. My roster for bookkeeping is almost exclusively contractors at this point, but realtors, any other small business, if you need bookkeeping support or need your books cleaned up, reach out to me. Yeah, doing some volunteer work. Eric is working in appliances here. We're trying to get out and have fun, but we also have a massive remodel to do here. And so trying to budget our time appropriately. Have a great Friday, you guys. Let me know what your questions are.